essentially the premise is devoting at least 15 minutes per day of uninterrupted time that you're sitting down and working on your craft.
All right, we are rolling. Hey everyone, Brett here with CraveBooks, and today the guest I am chatting with has authored 75 plus books, has multiple best-selling titles. You've created so many great resources about self-publishing, and you're pretty much the go-to guy on YouTube for news and insights about self-publishing. At least for me, I'm there every week watching those videos, which is pretty amazing because I don't know how you stay so consistent every single week putting these out. Welcome, Dale Roberts. How are you today?
I'm great. I did not know I'm over 75. I've been telling people for like the last couple of years it's over 50. This is crazy, but I'm so glad to get connected with you, man. And it's just a joy, especially since you kind of mentioned a couple of all-stars that you've just interviewed already. So I'm very thankful that you've given me this space to kind of come over and talk with you guys here at CraveBooks.
Yeah, no, for those of you out there watching, I actually came to Dale to do some mentoring when I first started publishing my books. And he gave me so many great resources. And one of the things he did was point me towards April Cox, who does children's books. And that was just an amazing help for me. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, April's awesome. I can't say enough great things about self-publishing made simple. She is the sweetest person you will ever meet on the face of the earth. And one of my greatest joys of being in this business is networking. And this is something that if you're an author listening to this, and you're an introverted author as well, hear me out here. If you're an extrovert, this is going to definitely resonate with you. Networking is absolutely critical to growing as an author. Now, I'm not going to say it's critical to selling books, but growing as an author. So sometimes if you're like me, you might be a wallflower. You go over to a in-person conference and you might be like, I'm just going to go ahead and blend into the woodwork. I feel you. But sometimes if you just step a little bit into that, out of that comfort zone and into a little bit of discomfort, you're going to find you're going to meet some really cool people. So I'm so glad that I was able to get you connected with April Cox. She's fantastic. And anytime that I can obviously introduce more people to you, Brett, you know where I'm at.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I think that's one thing I've learned through life is just how important connections are, not just being an author in general too. I mean, I played college basketball and I heard stories of great guys that made it overseas and other great guys that didn't make it overseas just because they didn't have the right connections. Ooh. So it's just so important to have those connections. So when I was in 20 Books at 20 Books Vegas, talked to an author, she was like, yeah, I started putting my books on YouTube. And now my YouTube revenue has gone up to 5 figures. And I was like, what? Like I wouldn't even thought of that. So it's just, that's how important networking, talking to people, and just finding your tribe, that group of people to connect with and share your experiences with, which we can get into a little bit more, but I want to get into you and your background. I'm curious to know, what was your expertise before self-publishing? Did you have a marketing background? What were you doing before this?
It's funny. I don't think I've ever answered this in a single interview. So this is a first. Believe it or not, the only marketing experience that I had was through multi-level marketing. Yeah, I was actually part of an MLM at some point or another. I know it's one of those ones that as soon as I think back on it, I cringe. But in that process of learning how to sell in the sleaziest way possible, I was able to at least get some nuggets of wisdom that I'm able to implement to these days. And that's not sleazy, if you will. It's understanding marketing and promotion and understanding, human connections, and networking was something that we had mentioned as well. But, that was only like a part-time gig that my wife and I were doing. And when we started to kind of realize this cultish-like behavior that people had with this MLM company, we're like, we're out by. And we ended up leaving, but thankfully I'd read just scores of great books. I studied so many awesome people in sales. So I was able to get a good understanding of sales, marketing, and promotion. But really, actually, my job used to be, I was in the healthcare industry for 20 years. I was an activities director, which means I was paid to play with senior citizens in different senior communities. I loved it. It was a fantastic job. And a lot of people might wonder, why did you ever leave it? The main reason I left it was I always had wanted to be an author since I was a boy. And going into my late 30s at that time, I really kind of wanted to do something. Actually, it was my good Lord, it was, yeah, my late 30s. I
Yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It's because I've been in the business for now a decade, which is crazy just thinking back. But it was a case of that 9 to 5 job, unfortunately, was interfering with my time with my wife. And I love my wife more than anything in the world. Like, she's just fantastic to me. And when the opportunity presented itself to become a full-time author, and I went with it. And a lot of people, I don't encourage you to do this. I quit my day job and I went right into it. And it sucked for the first 2 years. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was terrible. I don't recommend.
So you
Keep your
took a pay
job.
cut, I'm assuming.
Oh, it was a giant pay cut. It was really bad. I burnt through every single bit of my savings. I depleted my 401k. I ended up maxing out most of my credit cards. So by the time I started seeing any type of traction, it was in 2016. And though I had become successful as a fitness author, I was pulling in a decent amount of revenue. I couldn't really enjoy it because a lot of that had to go back into paying off those credit cards, into filling back up my savings account, into getting myself back on my feet. I don't think I really recovered until probably closer to like 2018, when financially we were no longer in a pickle and we were in a great position. So I'm very fortunate. Again, we're looking at about a decade into this now. August of 2014 was when I had left my job. So we're going on 10 years coming up here pretty soon. It's 10 years that I've been in the business because I started before I quit.
So you started 5 years earlier, or when was this first foray into self-publishing?
I believe it was early 2014. And to be exact, I think it was my very first publication. It is now out of print. Please don't try going looking for it. If you do, it's embarrassing. I'll tell you. It was the 3 keys to greater health and happiness. Unlock your greater life. Wow. That's such a nebulous title. Like, it's so vague, but, honestly, I had started writing that in 2013 based on a challenge from my corporate wellness coach, because she knew how much I loved health and fitness. She's like, you should write a book. And I was just like, yeah, I should. And I spent about a year every day before I go into work. I'd take about 2 hours. I'd get up at 4 a.m. I'd go all the way to 6 a.m. just churning out this manuscript. And at that time, I didn't know about plotting or outlining or anything else like that. I was just writing like a maniac. So by the time I had a manuscript finished within a year, I went through, did a self-edit, which, by the way, was horrible. And I ended up publishing it. So I think the very first manuscript went out, like I said, I think it was March 2014. I ended up getting an editor and re-released it in, I think, May of 2014. So it was about a few months later when I had realized my big mistake of like, oh yeah, I probably should get a human editor that's not me.
Yeah, no, just talking about making sure you have a professional editor going into it. When I had no idea what I was doing, I did pretty much everything backwards. And then when I came to you and April Cox, they're like, oh yeah, it's this step, this step, this step. And I was like, what do I do? So I totally 100% understand, especially when you're starting, you just have no idea. Going back to connections is finding a mentor, because it makes it that much easier when you can ask them, hey, where do I get my ISBN, or do I need a copyright, rather than going on Google, searching, finding 10 different answers from 10 different people that you may or may not trust. So I think that's one of the biggest things, being able to talk to people and get their experiences, in terms of when you're first getting started. So when you first dove in, what was the deciding factor for, hey, I'm going to quit my job and go all in on this?
It was my first paycheck, and I'm not kidding you, it was like $21 and some odd cents. As soon as I saw that was proof of concept, my thought was, okay, this was just from a little bit of effort. If I can devote myself full time to this, I'm sure I can probably put a couple zeros behind that. Wasn't quite true. It did take a while. And I was kind of like you, where I was using Google as my friend. I was using YouTube and I was trying to piece everything together. And I don't think it was until about mid 2015 that I hit a wall. I was literally ready to go back to a job, and it scared me. It scared me to death because I really started to enjoy the comforts of not having to answer to somebody else, of being able to wake up whenever I wanted to, of being able to spend time with my wife on my own terms. And it sucks. So that's when I ended up reaching out to a gentleman at that time, Jason Brock. Jason's a great friend of mine now. He's no longer really actively in the business nor coaching anybody, but I got with him and we'd worked for about, I would say, 6 to 8 months. And he just told me, stick and stay, do exactly what I tell you to do, and you're going to make it far. And it was so funny. Sometimes I would find a shiny object and go, nope, forget that. I would find some new tactic and strategy, some type of a loophole to abuse. And he'd go, don't do that. And he was so great at being able to guide me. So yeah, that having that mentorship, I totally agree with you. When you can find somebody, it's more customized, because this is the problem with Google is you can go and make this search, but is the information you're getting appropriate to you? Is it customized and personalized to exactly the direction that you want to take your brand, that you want to do in your business? Because sure, some information you're going to get from YouTube videos and from online articles and from even AI these days, it's going to be pretty good, generally pretty good. All right. But there is a lot of times that it does require more nuance, more time and deliberation and understanding the direction of your goals and where you want to head to. Yeah, everybody likes to say, I want to make more money as an author, or I want to reach more readers, or I want to get my book into more people's hands. But the more exact and more precise that you can be about it, the more successful that you're going to be. Because nobody in their right mind, unless they're a trained professional, is going to put a blindfold on inside a crowded bar and play darts. All right. They're not going to sit here and go, let's go ahead and put this blindfold on. There's about half dozen people around me. I'm going to go ahead and throw this dart right at the board. All right, let's go. Someone's going to get hurt at some point or another. And you're probably not going to win the game nonetheless, because it might end up hitting in someone's forehead or, lodging inside the below the dartboard itself. You get the analogy nonetheless. But yeah, having that type of coaching and mentoring was a difference maker for me. And to this day, it was so funny. And I shared this story every now and then, that it got to the point where Jason was just like, stop giving me money. And I'm like, why? You don't like my money? And he was just like, you're starting to teach me things. And that's when I realized that my ADHD is a superpower of mine. The fact that I can get to obsessive levels of focus on something that I'm truly passionate about, and I will just consume it, and I will eat it, and I will just keep doing it. And the funny thing is, that started in 2014. It really ramped up in 2015, but you go about another, gosh, a year later when I launched my YouTube channel, then I became super obsessed, because now I'm in the public eye. Now I need to make sure that I'm researching the information, that I'm providing evidence and giving and citing sources. So that way it's not just me bloviating about things. Sure, I can bloviate about stuff, but a lot of people want to know that it's factual information, that there's actually evidence for the stuff that I'm presenting to people. And yeah, to this day, I keep doing it. And the whole thing of like how you were saying, like, I don't know how you do it. You've been doing it. You're like, I show up consistently. Discipline. It all comes down to discipline. And I will admit to you, ADHD is just an amazing superpower, so long as you recognize that and know how to harness it in a way that's not detrimental to your mental health.
Yeah, I know. I think that's one thing, like a misconception that a lot of people have is, I'm just going to put out this book and I'll make an extra $1,000 a month. When in reality, it's, you need to put in the time, you need to put in the commitment to creating this book and perfecting the craft, whatever it is, and going getting to the shiny object syndrome, which you talked about, is
Oh yeah.
try not to go here and there and all the way over there, and focus on one thing. I know a lot of, I think it was Alex Hormozy who was talking about it too. Sean
Yeah.
Dalwitt, who you've talked to, I've talked to. They focus on one thing, one niche. So if you're a fantasy writer, then focus on fantasy, get good at it, and then maybe you start diving into nonfiction if you really want to, if that's something you have an interest in. But the first thing you should do is master something instead of being good at a little bit here, a little bit there. Master one thing and make sales with that thing, because that's the goal here. Being an author is to make sales and build your author business. I mean, so many good tokens of gold in there. Now, getting started, would you say an author needs to put in 2 or 3 hours a day, or can they do 1 hour? I mean, what's your recommendation? Obviously, people have full-time jobs,
Yeah.
kids, families. What would you recommend in terms of a new author or an author that's just getting started in terms of time management and how much they need to put into being successful?
What you need to do is consider being consistent. Consistency and building the discipline of being consistent is the most important aspect of any walk of business, whether you're an author or you're an online entrepreneur, you're an affiliate marketer, or even part of an MLM company. You need to be consistent and build that discipline. A good friend of mine, Honore Corder, she actually put out a book about, I think, the 15-minute writer, it might have been called, but it essentially, the premise is devoting at least 15 minutes per day of uninterrupted time that you're sitting down and working on your craft, that you're writing. So think about being consistent. I think the old Bruce Lee saying goes like, I don't fear the man that has done 10,000 kicks at one time, more so the person has done 10,000 individual kicks. You guys will have to Google that one up. Google will serve you on this one right here. But it's just to say that, Bruce Lee was saying that consistency is the most important thing that you should do. It's not all about let's do volume all at once, but more over volume over a period of time. So look at your schedule. Think about the things that don't serve your ultimate goal of being an author. It could probably be time binge watching Netflix. It could probably be time, I don't know, playing video games. It could possibly be time sacrificing a little bit of time of your reading. What I wouldn't recommend is sacrificing any time with your family, or in some instances, your faith. Because there's a lot of people that are very faith-based. I wouldn't expect for you to sacrifice either of those F's right there. Family and faith, keep them in alignment. But I'm sure there's other pockets within the course of your day that you can find time, be it 5 minutes, be it 15 minutes, or even a couple of hours. For me, I found that time was best available when my wife wasn't awake. When I was inside a day job, I said, okay, what do I need to do that I can still make it to work in time? I don't sacrifice any time with my wife, and I can get this done. And by the way, I was able to continue doing all my workouts and things like that. I did not miss out on those type of things. That 2 hours was my uninterrupted time. No one taught me that, by the way. I just determined I need to get this done. I'm going to make it happen. So if you've got 2 hours, sure, go for it. But make it the most intense, concentrated 2 hours of your day as possible. Let's just pretend, though, you don't have 2 hours per day over the course of a week. That's totally fine. Scale it back to what makes the most sense. Even if you just do 10 minutes per day over the course of a week, it's better than nothing. This is the same principles that I offered as a personal trainer to somebody that used to say, I don't have time to work out. They'd come in for sessions. They would pay me really good money as a personal trainer. And I would say, okay, you need to get this workout, this workout, this workout. And they come back and they're like, I didn't have time. I'm like, I literally give you all the things that you need to do and you didn't do it. The funny thing is I would give somebody a 4-minute workout called a Tabata. Tabatas literally take 4 minutes. And I promise you, Tabatas will just make you
Oh, I've
cry
been
if
there.
you've never tried them before.
I've been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Well, with you being an athlete, you definitely know Tabatas are no joke. That's 4 minutes of the most intense stuff that you could ever do. That 4 minutes, a lot of people used to just take for granted. And I would literally prove it to every single client that would come in and tell me they didn't have the time for their workouts by putting them through 4 minutes in our session. And I would give them a minute to recover. And I go, how you feeling now? And they're like, are we done with our workout? Nope. You still got your workout ahead of you. I wanted to prove to you 4 minutes was all you needed. And that's going to be the same thing for authors out there. If you're aspiring to becoming a published author, or even just writing a book, just devote the amount of time that you can to and be consistent with it. And if you have to, give yourself rewards along the way. It could probably be, hey, as soon as I finish writing 1,000 words, I'm going to go give myself a back massage. Or as soon as I get done writing this manuscript, I'll take the family out for dinner. Doesn't always have to be food, whatever that reward might be, give yourself something of that. Or maybe the reward in itself is just being consistent with it. To me, I'm thrilled. Anytime I can hit 1,000 words in a given day, done. You've rewarded me enough. I don't need chocolates or any type of fancy like prizes or anything else like that. I think that that's the reward in itself. But kind of crazy like that, I don't know if that will be the type of reward that you want to get. But as long as you're being consistent, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I know. Appreciating just the little wins along the way while you maintain focus on that overarching goal is so important. I'm kind of like you. If I get a lot of stuff done in one day, I feel good. I feel good about just from doing the stuff. Like I don't need to give myself any rewards. It's just get all that done and you feel good. You just feel good that you've done it. Now, so staying consistent is one thing, but I know a lot of people out there, myself sometimes too, think of a hard task or something and it's like, I don't want to start this. I don't want to start this. Do you have any strategies or tips for authors that need to write the next chapter, but they might just think like, I can't think of the plot right now. I can't think of any good characters or whatever it is to get started?
Boy, I'll tell you, we can open up a whole can of worms here on writer's block. Writer's block's a very interesting thing. It's sometimes tough to overcome, and there's so many varying forms of writer's block. I would say the most important thing is just get started. Just commit yourself to doing 2 minutes of whatever that task might be. Because I think that when you find yourself getting at least a little bit of momentum, you're more susceptible to staying on. I will share with you that is an issue for me on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those cases that I look at the fact that I am backed up with so many video projects right now, and sometimes it feels so overwhelming that just the thought of having to chip in this large chunk of a mountain is just too much for me. My brain shuts down. But now what I just usually force myself to do is I will set a to-do list on my phone. There's some people that are anti-to-do list. If you're anti-to-do list, just ignore this particular, section here. But I put a to-do list and then I set it also in my schedule. So that way it's on my calendar, it's at a specific time, and I just give myself that 5 minutes. And it seems ludicrous and almost ridiculous. But when I sit down and I do it and I start to work on it, I'm like, oh, so like, for instance, these 5 videos that I'm backed up on, it's just a case of, okay, sit down, let's draft at least the first part of the video, and then maybe the last part of the video. And as soon as I get those done, for whatever reason, my brain goes, you can get one more. You got one more. And I'm like, okay. And the next thing I know, I just tricked myself into doing the entire video script, and I'm ready to go ahead and shoot this video, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So it's what I'm doing for myself may not work for you. What might work for you may not work for me. It's going to take a lot of trial and error, but the most important thing is being self-aware enough to know I'm in my own way. I'm the one responsible for having all these videos backed up so much. Nobody else is to blame. I can try to blame this, and this. Oh, I've got I'm busy. I had to go on holiday. I have all these sponsorships. You know whose fault it is? Me. It's my fault. So thankfully, I'm self-aware enough to know when I'm getting in my own way. And then I have to sit there and think, okay, what can I do to get out of my own way? And if it's something like as simple as writer's block that's getting in your way, just write one sentence. One sentence. It doesn't have to be about that particular book. It could probably be something as simple as a journal entry. I learned this one from Kevin Tumlinson, formerly of Drafted Digital. Kevin, prolific author, fantastic guy. He journals every day before he writes, because what it does is it greases his creative wheels. It gets his fingers warmed up, and it gets it to where he is right in that right mindset. I tried that trick, and it's really good because
there's no expectations when you're journaling.
No one's going to read it. That's the coolest thing, is no one is ever going to read it. Sit down 15 minutes before you write your next manuscript. So if you're stuck with writer's block, try that little trick right there. Just write down. It could probably be something as simple as memory recall. Think about some time when you were a child, something that might have been traumatic, or maybe something that was joyful for you, or maybe something that was, I don't know, rather small, nothing big, inconsequential, or maybe something that happened throughout the course of your day and how you reacted to it. It doesn't matter. No one's going to read it. If anybody reads it, it'll probably be past your lifetime, which I always get a kick out of thinking about anybody reading my journal. And I'll every now and then be like, if anybody's ever reading this later on, sorry if I ruined your expectations of me, but journaling is a great way to kind of segue. But there's so many ways to break writer's block and to get out of your own way. You just have to experiment, and also think that you as a person, you're always evolving, you're always growing. So part of that is understanding that what might work today might not work another 5 years from now, because you're going to be a different person. Maybe journaling doesn't work. Maybe your brain goes, yeah, it's nothing to me anymore. It's whatever. I'm stuck again. So you just have to try to experiment. Great way to do this. And this is just kind of one of those instances. I think this is a very divisive topic. I'm just going to bring it up, is AI, artificial intelligence. Don't know what to do to get yourself out of there? Ask artificial intelligence. Just like, AI, I'm stuck. I don't know how to get through this. Can you give me 10 solutions to this? Try those solutions out. It is pretty nuts, because there's been so many times I've leaned on AI for so many, things like, what do I need for an email subject line? I don't know what to talk about in my latest video. Give me 10 topics. You think about some of those things, because AI is not all about just, plagiarizing somebody's work, or, taking their art or anything else like that. AI can actually be leveraged in better ways that could actually benefit you and get it to where you're getting out of your own way and help troubleshoot some of your issues.
Yeah, no, I'm so on the AI train with those, not just writing, but ideas in general. If I'm trying to write an email newsletter, I just say, give me ideas for this email newsletter. And then maybe it's not the one that it gives you, but then that sparks an idea, which I've seen many, many times before. All of this is such good information. I know we're not really covering certain maybe KDP topics, but I think knowing what it takes to be an author and the tips to stay consistent come before, like knowing the whatever niche it is in KDP that you're trying to focus in on, because without this consistency and being able to do this day in and day out, you might make it. I'm not saying that you won't, but it's just going to make it that much harder to build a successful author business if that's what you're looking to do. So I love talking about this topic. I could go on it all day. I know one other thing that I forget who said it, but just put your journal and your pen in a place where you're going in the morning. Put it on your counter. So when you wake up and you go into the kitchen in the morning, it's right there looking at you. You don't have to pull it out of a drawer. You just pick it up, write one sentence. There's so many different ways that you can get out of a funk or maintain that consistency. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we're getting close to about 30 minutes, which went by really fast. But I still do have a couple more questions. So I'm going to throw them out there. I got 2 would you rathers, and then a couple finish the sentence rapid fires that I want to get your take on.
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one is, would you rather only be able to create self-publishing videos on YouTube or only create them on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok?
YouTube, hands down. Easy pick.
Why
Instagram,
is that?
Facebook, and TikTok are fantastic, but to me, YouTube is the place that I resonate most with. I go there every day. In fact, I got rid of cable a long time ago because I watch 90% of my videos on YouTube, even on my television. So it's just an easy solution. I've kind of fallen out of love with Instagram, Facebook, Meta, if you will, and TikTok. It's okay. I mean, but it's just not YouTube.
It's a different form of media, definitely.
Yeah, I've always been a consumer of YouTube, and that's why I'm just a huge fan. I have so many people that I love to follow on YouTube and so many connections there. And on top of that, I've built such a great following over on YouTube. It would be crazy. In fact, I've got, not many people realize this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different YouTube channels. 2 people usually know about. I don't talk about the other ones.
I think I know of 2, but the other one. So is the other one like a Star Wars theory type of thing, or?
That would be awesome, actually. Yeah.
All right. Next one. Would you rather see your book adapted into a movie with a few creative changes, or into TV series that stays true to the book?
TV series, hands down. For me, it kind of goes back to honoring what is within that specific manuscript. I've seen so many times with Stephen King, where a lot of his books were just crammed into a 90-minute movie. And I'm like, you missed a lot of the major beats in this, and that made it such a special book. But TV series for sure.
Yeah, no. And I know just with TV now, TV is the new movie, basically, with Netflix. I think more people are watching TV series than they are movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. If I could do the same, it would be a TV series. All right. Let's get some of these rapid fire. Don't even give me the reason why, and maybe we can come back and dig into them. All right. The most important lesson I've learned about self-publishing is,
it's not one size fits all.
When I first started with KDP, I wish I had known.
It's not easy as everybody makes it out to be.
One strategy that significantly increased my book sales is
consistently marketing and promoting.
The easiest thing about creating content on YouTube is
pushing the publish button.
The most satisfying thing. The hardest thing about creating content on YouTube is
handling negative comments. It's tough.
In 10 years, I see the world of self-publishing
being more accepted in mainstream.
I would agree on that one, definitely. And the last one is, do you have one book recommendation that will help people that are thinking about publishing or already published and they're doing it self-published way?
Anything by David Gaughran.
David Gaughran. I think did he do a review book where you can get book reviews, or a book blog book, something like that? Or is that
no, I don't think so. He did Let's Get Digital, and one of my favorite ones is Amazon Decoded. Amazon Decoded is a great one.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have heard of that one.
Yeah, I love his writing style. He's just so snarky, and he's a lot of fun to read his stuff. Like, I literally will binge read his. I binge read his books because they're so easy to read. But yeah, David Gaughran, hands down.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of him, to be honest. But anyway, Dale, thank you so much for coming on. Want to give you a chance. Here's the plug. Let people know where they can find you. Obviously, he has an amazing YouTube channel, which we've talked about. What do you got going on?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. That's one of the best ways to do that. And if you want to find all the different various avenues that I'm available in, be it over Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those type of things, you can find my entire hub at selfpublishingwithdale.com. Again, that's selfpublishingwithdale.com, all one word. And you'll be able to get everything that you need to know about the self-publishing business, get yourself started and on the right track.
Awesome. Yeah, I have actually been over there, and there are quite a few resources, video resources. So if you're a new author, current author, check it out. Thank you so much, Dale, for coming on and gracing us with your presence and your knowledge about self-publishing. Like I mentioned, I'm pretty much watching your videos every week to see what's going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you.